some private schools, non-public schools, are back in session, and Montgomery County students will begin online learning on Monday. We still have not received any guidance from the state regarding non-public schools. No guidance, zero. So weeks after they told us that we should follow their guidance in the CDC, they still don't provide guidance. Hopefully this is coming sooner than later, hopefully before everybody gets back into school, and hopefully giving us enough time to evaluate plans that people may have so we can be sure that they are meeting state and CDC guidelines. We continue to feel strongly that it's not safe for schools to open, and we continue to recommend the non-public schools, which haven't made the decision not to open yet. And just like we do with other businesses, we will report citations and closures, which is consistent with what we've done for all other businesses. So if we wind up citing schools and if we wind up closing schools, that'll be reported like everything else. It's important to remember for the non-public school leadership, it is a law that schools that have positive cases should contact the county's contact tracing team at 240-777-1755. And I want to emphasize, it is the law that they have to contact the tracing team if they have any positive cases. The closure is a decision of the health officer, and would not be a closure of non-public schools. It would be a closure, if it's ordered, of a non-public school.
So a non-public school would be considered to be closed if it's deemed not safe to inhabit, and it would be looked at as the same criteria, any other building, if there were unsafe practices happening. So consistent with the guidelines that we've used, particularly related to COVID, are things such as, lack of adherence to the public health guidance that has been, and by law, in terms of, face coverings, physical distancing. Certainly, if we were to have evidence of cases pop up in particular areas, as part of the investigation, if there were any types of practices that were in place that were deemed to be unsafe and rendered the space to be unsafe to occupy and to execute the role of teaching and in-person learning. And so if any of those types of criteria, consistent again with our process of investigating other businesses for their ability to comply with the local and the state guidelines related to public health practices, if there were instances where those types of policies were not being adhered to and were being violated, yes, the schools would be at risk of citation, fining, and closure.
When the amended executive order was sent to us by the governor's office, they did reiterate that the local health officers retain the authority to close individual locations. And as Dr. Gale said, that applies to any sort of businesses based on unsafe conditions. And that power is enumerated in the governor's order from April 5th, number 20-04-05-02.